Hello, everyone. Can y'all hear okay? Yes? Thumbs up? Awesome. Well, thanks for visiting room 3 today. It was a very wise choice. I'm just going to say. Hope everyone's doing okay at school. Welcome to our, which is really experiential learning session. So very interesting because I love and have studied experiential learning, which is learning through experience, which I now know is the best way to learn as opposed to lecturing. I'll kind of wait as people are entering here, and further kind of discovered that really it's learning through reflection upon doing. So just because you do an activity doesn't really mean that you've learned from it. John Dewey tells us that you have to reflect upon doing it. So I feel like we all know, like in the adult world, I feel like traveling is the best form of education, where you travel and you're just absorbing naturally. And then all of a sudden you realize you know all these things that you didn't know before, but it was very different than sitting in your history class learning about all of that. So the thought was like, oh my gosh, this is such a great way to learn. Like, how can we bring this to schools? And thus, leadership development at your school was kind of created for this, and we're super excited about it. So the interesting thing is that we've always done them, and we've always done them obviously like in person, and they've always had a certain theme or curriculum that we've really focused on. Like previously we focused on things like empathy or taking initiative or technology or these kinds of things. And so I think my hope is that they are still experiential learning through this. And it's funny because I recently went to the national conference and speakers came on and did their like speaking gig. But it looked the same as if I was there in person. And you kind of just feel like you're being talked to the whole time, and it's very different. And then one speaker came on and he was very engaging, and we were always like doing something, like you had to type something into the chat, or you had to hold something up, and I was like, and I've heard him speak before, and I was like, oh, he's so smart. He actually took his gig and created it specifically for Zoom to be engaging. And I was like, that's the ticket. Is how do you take what you're doing right now and structure it so it's still engaging and it's not the same structure kind of thing. And I know I've kind of learned that over and over when we do activities for leadership development. Our test in the end is, could they have done this activity without participating? And if the answer is yes in any way, then we throw it out. We're like, no, then it's not a thing. So like whatever we do, it's like, could they choose to not participate? And like we've done a lot of them, we're like, oh my gosh, they really could like just be thinking, nope, throw it out. So it's always like the most engagement possible. So we've worked really hard to think of what's important today that students are listening to. And I listen a lot to the CASEL board, who fills me in on the student perspective. Say hello to Andrew Santana, our CASEL state president. Hi, Andrew. So he's very good at filling me in on how people are thinking. And just like ASB students, who everybody's always like, oh, you have the best kids. And we're thinking like, you have no idea the issues that they are all going through. And people say the same thing to me about the CASEL board. They're like, oh, look at the CASEL board. And then Andrew's like, here's what people are really having struggles with. So we know that everyone's struggling. So I was super excited to talk to leadership coaches and decide on mental wellness, which to me is like has a special place in my heart anyway, for many reasons. But how can we not say mental wellness? Because that's not such a pretty word to be like, oh, who doesn't want to go learn about mental wellness? So we don't really say that during it. It's through the experiential learning that you get to learn it, which is super exciting. So we have our two amazing leadership coaches here today. One is going to take you through one of the activities and kind of tell you how we honed in on the book that we decided to read and what we were doing. And then the other one at the end is going to tell you more about like how it was when she brought this to, oh, your mic keeps hitting your scarf. Thank you. Whoever just said that. We also have power outages here in San Diego. Anyone that's from San Diego, so my Zoom all day has also been going out. They're just random power outages that they're doing. So a little frightening. So first, I'm going to introduce you to a leadership coach who's going to take you through one of the activities, and you'll kind of get the idea of where our curriculum is headed. And again, emphasizing the fact that it's not just for student leaders. And I can talk more at the end if you've never been to one, but you can host them for your school. You can host them for just your entire school. You can host them for your student leaders. You can host them for any like any leadership positions like NHS, all those, it's like, what I've learned is that you all school me all the time on how we should be doing them. So I also get the call that's like, hey, Sandy, could you do this? And I'm like, oh my gosh, you're so brilliant. Of course, that's a genius idea. And then we do it. So I'll kind of tell you more about the structure at the end during Q&A. And I see Brittany and some other people who've already hosted them, so I don't want to bore them with like how they're done also. But we'll get into that too. So I am going to first hand it off to Brody Castor, who is going to take you through some of the curriculum and have at it. Thanks, Brody.
Awesome. So you will need a writing. This is active. So here we go. One of the things that when we were talking with Sandy, like she said, is I'm getting a master's degree. So I've been to many Zoom classes, as well as working with the Castle Board and many things like that. And like all of you now, because our biggest concern with Zoom is everyone's going to be talking. Now our biggest concern is no one talks. Like all y'all on mute right now. I see you. Half of you don't even have your videos. Like Diane, like Michelle, what are you doing? Because this is what our kids are doing.
Hey, Brady, I'm just going to stop for 1 second just to say, like, it says recording paused on mine. Like, I don't know if it looks different on yours. I just want to make sure people get this.
Mine says recording still.
Okay. Yeah. Mine says pause.
Okay. But I do think it's funny because I saw this meme, which I'm not going to show you, but it's like skipping school in 2019. It has these kids and they're like falling out, and it says skipping school in 2020, and all it has is the mute button and no video button. It's like, that's so true. And so I know a lot of your schools had to come up with policies, and one of the things that we really wanted to do was we want to make sure that students are participating. So during this session, we're going to encourage you to go off mute. That's how we're branding a lot of our LDDs, is be off mute. So we want our students, we're going to do like we are now, except smaller breakout rooms where students are encouraged to go off mute and actually engage with each other. So right now, I encourage all of you to go off mute, because it is one of those things where we're going to encourage you to talk, which is, I know a lot of you are very scared. Right now, you're like, I have dogs. Or you're like, now there's a background noise. Like, what about this? Like, yes, but now you can actually have conversations, because the whole mute thing, it's our comfort. And we're like, ugh. So you're going to need a piece of paper. Well, I like index cards because we're going to flip through them, a lot of them. So I'm using index cards, but you can also use any kind of piece of paper. You're going to have to hold it up. So that's why your video needs to be on, because you are going to have to hold it up. So make sure you have that. I encourage all of you to take your video on. So you're like, I don't need to participate. It's like, well, yeah, you do. So here's how it's going to work. I'm going to start sharing. So let me do this.
Hi, Kristen. I just want to say hi because I see you.
All right, this is a very simple activity, and we're going to tie it in. So we're just going to have fun with this, and we're going to tie it in a second. But it's, are you more like? So in this activity, all you have to do is pick a side. So I'm sure all of you have played Choose a Side. We're going a little bit different with this, but it's quite fun. So the first one, I'm going to use an example, and I'm going to use it. I'm going to have Sandy and Michaela be my examples. But are you more of a ladder, or are you more of a tree? Now, you can take this in multiple ways. You'll see our example, but you have to write something down. And you're going to choose a side. So it says ladder or tree, and you have to choose one of them. So I'm going to give you about 5 seconds. You would choose ladder, you would choose tree. So Sandy, she wrote ladder, and then Michaela, because we rehearsed this and we're really good, Michaela chose tree. So I'm going to have each of them talk about it, and each of you are then going to choose something as well, ladder or tree, ladder or tree. So don't say it yet. I'm going to let them explain it so you can kind of get it, and then we're going to go with everyone. So Sandy, why did you choose ladder?
So I chose ladder in thinking about this because as a teacher, I have realized that my students come in at different rungs all the time. So especially lately with the diversity and equality and those kinds of things, I was talking to my students about the movie 13th. And one of my students was like, I saw that when I was 11 years old. And I was like, oh my God, it's 4 years old. Like a middle school person saw it when they were 11. But then I've had seniors who were like, what's it called? And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Like everyone comes in on a different rung. And that's just an example. But I'm now more cognizant when I'm teaching of like what rung is everyone on, so I can sort of address it and make sure that we're all moving forward. That is why, Broadcaster, I chose ladder.
Fantastic. And then Michaela, why did you choose tree?
Well, I chose tree, and I drew a beautiful picture of a tree. In case you didn't see that.
It.
I chose tree because honestly, like I have a big tree in my backyard, and when my girls were babies, like we would sit under the tree, and that was like our day. Like they would goo goo gaga and talk about the leaves, and the breeze would blow, and we would just like sit there. And I feel like during quarantine, we've been doing a lot of like sitting under the tree because there's really nothing else to do. But it's forced me to like reconnect with my kids and reconnect with like slowing down whenever I can and just sitting under the tree. And I realized like the importance of play and the importance of taking time to just sometimes do nothing or just play or just be still. So this tree, because nature I feel like is very important, calming, and playtime is important. So there you go, Brady.
Perfect. So what everyone can see is they had different reasons for choosing one or the other. So there's no, like, as far as like, you're like, oh, well, a ladder is more, like, whatever you're thinking, you just have to make a choice on one, and we're going to look at your reasoning behind that. So we have 20 of these. We're not going to do all 20. We're going to do about 10. And I'm going to ask one of you to explain, like, why did you choose that? And sometimes they may be like polar opposites of each other. Sometimes they may be very different. Like Sandy was like, she addressed equality in hers. And then Michaela addressed this idea of play. And so you're just looking at those things, and we're going to come back to that. So kind of have an idea, which is why we're having you write them down. So you have this, you know, writing actually makes you remember things more. All right. So the first one was ladder and tree. Got it? So everyone write down one, just so we can practice that. And then all you're going to do is you're just going to hold it up to the screen, ladder or tree. So ready? 3, 2, 1, hold it up. We got some, oh, we got some trees. We got some ladders. Perfect. Yes. Awesome. Fantastic. Okay. Next one. Ready? So now you're going to just do it again. Just next one. Are you a settler or you're an explorer? Settler or explorer? About 3 seconds. I should have music playing. Oh, I know I'm settler, explorer. Okay. Woo! All right. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Show us. Settler, explorer. Go. All right. Let's see. Okay, Michelle, you chose settler. Yes? All right, Michelle, now why did you choose... Hold on, I have to pause the music. I get it better at switching between screens. Okay, Michelle, why did you choose settler?
Well, first of all, I was all excited about the tree because I even took notes about that.
You're like, I was ready to talk about the tree.
Off my game. I think because I'm not new to this game. This is my 21st year. Mm-hmm. And I'm more of just sort of content. My younger daughter, she's 22. I want her to be an explorer. But as far as me, I'm okay being a settler. I'm content. I'm okay where I'm at. I'm good.
Thank you. That's awesome. I think that's such a, I know that my dad, when he was in his last years of teaching, he was like, I have it figured out. Like I have made my community. And it's kind of like the Moana thing. It's like the young girl is supposed to go on and explore. Like we've made our community. Now it's your turn kind of thing. I love that. Okay, and then hold them up one more time so I can see because I'm scroll through. Hold them up. Explorer. Okay, so wait, I'm missing. Let's see. Erica, you chose explorer. So why did you say explorer?
I also, the other classes I teach are 7th grade social studies, and that's all we're doing. We're exploring the world. So I'm always telling my kids, let's go explore.
Like bringing them with you too. Okay. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. Okay. So remember these. And we're going to do another one. Ready? Oops. Maybe not. Okay. Are you a landing or are you a takeoff? Landing or takeoff? All right. All right. Ready? And 3, 2, 1. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna I'll do Vanessa and Ruth because you guys are right next to each other and you're opposites. So why don't we go Ruth first? So Ruth, you're landing. Why'd you say landing?
Okay, so it's kind of ironic that I put explorer previously, okay? And then I put landing. At first I thought, which one's more scarier? When you take off or when you land. That's honestly what I thought first. But then I ended up going with landing for a completely different reason. My reason was because you've arrived. That's like the message. When you've landed, you have arrived. Meaning you've come to a conclusion, end, a resolve. So that kind of resonated with me.
Yeah, I like that. Like I'm taking it from a scientific mindset, I will say, of like, when you get to the end of the result, it's really exciting. It's like, we did it. We got here. And it's the celebration of your students too, of like, we completed it, guys. We did this together. And that is that is such a celebration point, and like I'll say the proud mama moment of like, this is what we did. So
Yeah.
I get that. Okay. Oh gosh, I just lost it. People move around. Vanessa.
That's so funny that she said that she was originally Explorer and then she went with Landing because I was Settler. And so I'm Takeoff because I always have all of these great ideas and I jump like 100% in and I like get things going. But often they don't always, but they're still taking off. And so we have a lot to like keep going with, but that's me.
I love that. You're like everyone together. Fantastic.
Yes, exactly.
I remember when I was doing this, I'm so glad that like I think we are like, you can tell we are leadership advisors. Like we have this idea and we are teachers too, because I will say I've done this one with some people and they're like, I just don't like the takeoff. Like that's the scariest part of the plane ride. I'm like, anything else? Like, no, that's it. So I was like, okay, cool. So I'm so glad that we're going deeper too. But however, if you did put it for that, I think that you'll see later on, it's going to show you something. All right, we're going to do about three. What do you think, Sandy? 3 more? 2 more. We're going to do 2 more. Okay. So are you, no, I'm in, no, this one.
Now you're gonna be
Are you a
picky.
door or a window? Are you a door or a window? Okay, ready? 3, 2, and 1. Show. Okay, let's see. Okay, so let's see. Kristen, you said window, and then Diane, you said door, right? Did that say door?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So Kristen, why are you a window? So go with that first. Okay, wait, Kristen, you're not muted, but I can't hear you. I know. Okay, I'm gonna hold on. I'm gonna go to, yeah, we'll come back to you. So why don't we go with door, and that was?
Diane.
Diane, yes. Diane, go ahead.
So I found I'm very similar to, I think it was Vanessa that just spoke on the last one, where I am all in at the beginning. And so I feel like a door. It's like, if I find an idea and I really like it, like I'm wide open, we're doing this. And then sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But I will run through that door. Whereas there's windows, there's that protective. And I don't always look at that part.
Perfect. I get that. You're like, I see it, and I always go with the opportunity too. Like when one door opens, when one door closes, another door opens. Like I like that analogy too. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. And let's go back, Kristen. Back.
It kind of looks like Kristen's computer's not working. She put in the chat that like she has an old computer. And Kristen, I would say, although I don't want you to, so don't do it this time. Oh, she put it in there. Go for it. Brody, can you read the chat? Or I could read it.
Go ahead and read the chat because since I'm screen sharing, I'm not
Okay, so this is from Kristen. And she said, I'm a window because of all the beautiful things to see. I sometimes have fingerprints, but those are also learning environment.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Kristen. Yeah, I think we as leadership teachers or teachers in general, a lot of times it's like we have to not only open the door, but sometimes it's just opening the window of like making people see everything. I also, with the window, I always think of the thing is like, are you a window or a mirror? And I think that's a really powerful one of like, are you letting other people see? Are you like looking out or are you just seeing yourself? So I like that one as well.
And that's what Kristen said too at the end. Sorry, she just typed it in. And she said, you just have to have your eyes open to all the opportunities like through the windows.
Yep. Thanks, Kristen. Okay, let's do, oh, this one is one of my favorites, so I'm gonna end with this one. Well, actually, no, we did something like this. I'll do this one. Are you metal or wood? And I like this one because it's very abstract. Are you metal or wood? Okay, ready? 3, 2, and 1. Okay, so is it Haiti? You said wood, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. And then who said metal? Okay, I said, oh wait, Andrew, did you say metal? Okay, so we'll do Haiti and Andrew. So Andrew, well, actually, Haiti, why don't you go first? Why did you say wood?
I thought of wood because you can mold it to different things or carve it out. And
Mhm.
so I feel like I'm always looking for different things to kind of mold myself into a better teacher, better leader, better person. And so that's kind of why I went with, and it's also warmer than metal.
Mhm.
So I went with that.
Yeah, there. I like the pliability of it, like the warmness of it. Definitely, I can see. I mean, lots of teachers that I know. Definitely. All right, Andrew, why'd you say metal?
Yeah, similar. I think it's kind of the same reason of like it also can be shaped and like different in different shapes, and so I feel like I am always getting tested and try to just to being like, okay, now you have to go into this position, and now you have to do all these like you have to be under like this certain quality, and like I don't know. I feel like for me, I resonate with metal because I'm always stepping into new places where I have to be a different Andrew. It's kind of weird. I don't know. Kind of weird to explain.
No, I think that's really true. Like metals, there's so many different types of metals like that do different things. So it's kind of like I constantly have to adapt and move and do all those kind of things. Yeah, definitely. I mean, there are different types of wood. So what I love about this one is it's however you interpret it. Like you can say both of them can be pliable. Like you could have said, oh, well, wood is very pliable, kind of like we heard from Haiti. And then, but metals also can be very pliable. You have to heat it in different ways and things like that. So one of the things that I now want you to reflect on is what we are doing in our LDD to talk about mental wellness is we first want to talk about your values. So this is one of the great things that this quiz does is it helps puts us in a mindset of what are my values. So I'm going to use Michaela and Sandy. We'll go back to our originals. So for example, you heard Sandy talk about the different rings of people, like the 11-year-old and the 17-year-old. And so one of Sandy's values you might say is like, wow, she really values creating equitable environments. Like she wants people to be on these rings together and she's gonna make sure that no one's left behind pushing them up the ring. So it's like, oh, well, one of her values might be equity. Or Michaela talked about her children, talked about like the future generations or spending family time together. So one of her values may be family, maybe like this art of play. So these different things that we actually do, you're talking about your values and that's how you chose. As you said, what do I value? And for some reason or another, you said this value, this thing has value, and this other thing has maybe less value. So what we were doing is we're making you choose your values. Now, one of the reasons that we actually did that was because this year, and I know you have it, Sandy, and I have the illustrated version because I gave mine away. I was like, oh, I know. So this year, what we're doing is we actually have a book. It's called The Happiness Trap. There's two of them. There's the illustrated version, which has like, it's easy to read for students. That's why I have this one. And then the one that we actually read was The Happiness Trap that Sandy is up. And what it talks about is it talks about actually our ability to handle situations. I always feel like, and I'm gonna show a quick little snippet of a video that I think that we do all the time. And this is actually how we deal with most of our problems. And it's from the movie Inside Out. If you've never seen it, it's quite fantastic. But this, I feel like this is what most people do.
Very exciting. I was up late last night figuring out a new plan. Here it is. Fear. I need a list of all the possible negative outcomes on the first day at a new school.
Way ahead of you there. Does anyone know how to spell meteor?
Disgust. Make sure Riley stands out today, but also blends in. When I'm through, Riley will look so good, the other kids will look at their own outfits and bark. Joy. Yes, Joy? You'll be in charge of the console, keeping Riley happy all day long. And may I add, I love your dress. It's adorable. Oh, this old thing? Thank you so much. I love the way it twirls. Train of thought, right on schedule. Anger, unload the daydreams. I ordered extra in case things get slow in class.
Might come in handy if this new school is full of boring, useless classes, which it probably will be.
Oh, sadness. I have a super important job just for you. Really? Mm-hmm. Follow me. What are you doing? And there. Perfect. This is the circle of sadness. Your job is to make sure that all the sadness stays inside of it.
I love that scene from Inside Out because how often do we all do that? We're like, okay, we're just gonna stay sad. Like we give ourselves a time limit. We're like, I can stay sad because I've done this during Corona time, like COVID-19 so often. I was like, I can be sad for today. Or like, oh my gosh, we're not gonna have homecoming. We're not gonna, okay, I just get this just little moment. This is what I can be sad for. Or just this little section of my brain can be sadness. And the problem is that, of course, it doesn't stay there. Like during the movie, does sadness stay there? No, it doesn't. We have so many human emotions, but most of them we qualify as negative. Most of our human emotions we say are negative. But the question is why? Just like during that time, was there a right answer? Was there a tree? Oh yeah, it has to be tree. And then the ladder, it's negative. Or, oh no, it has to be ladder, and then the tree is negative. No, all in our perceptions, all in our values. And so what we want during this whole thing is we want to actually talk to students about, okay, what are your values? And how can we then shape everything that we do to go more towards values? And this book does a great job of doing it. Can't get into it a lot, but during the LDD, we talk about values and we talk about, well, what are the difference between values and goals? And, you know, I love the story of the long jumper that set the world record. And then after that, he got very depressed because he's like, I achieved my goal. Cool. You know, and how many people achieve their goal? And then it's like, well, now what? Well, a value is something you never achieve. You just keep working towards. And so we talk about that value is really what drives us. And it's not about achieving this ultimate happiness of like, I just got to be happy all the time, because that's a trap of saying, I got to be happy all the time. It's like, we have a huge range of human emotions. Like, what we have to do is we have to constantly strive towards our values. And I mean, this is like living the purpose-driven life and things like that. So we do this whole thing with our students and we talk about our values of how to do it and everything like that. And then we talk about how, like what values they have and how that actually achieves more and achieves more. And then we have another activity that we do, which is about kind of like collaboration. And Sandy, I'm trying to leave a lot more time for, so I'm going through quickly. So I'm trying to leave a lot more time. So I'm going through this quickly too, just so everyone knows. And then we do another one that's about collaboration. We have two other video clips that we show. One's on Misty, and I'm not sure, Sandy, if you want to have me show those. I don't think we have time. One's on Misty Copeland. So if you haven't had the opportunity, y'all, there's an episode. It's on Apple TV. So I'm not sure if you subscribe or anything. I'm not sure where else it's available, but it's a TV series called Dear. Dear ... So so they do Spike Lee, they have Oprah, they have Jane Goodall, they have Gloria Estefan, they have and the last one that I remember, they have Big Bird, they have Misty Copeland. And what they do, Lin-Manuel Miranda, Hamilton. So what they do is they actually have them tell their life stories, but during it, people have written in letters to them saying, Dear Lin-Manuel Miranda, Dear Jane Goodall, this is how you have changed, this is how you have inspired me. And you have actually the people reading it. So Oprah's sitting there reading this letter while, like, side view, you see someone else, the actual person reading their letter. Misty Copeland did one, and it's absolutely incredible, and it addresses the inequality.
Maybe you could just show the one that's like 1 minute. It's the first one, Brody, that's only like 1.5 minutes.
Yeah.
Can you show that one really quick?
I can. I got it all ready.
Because I feel like this is kind of important to what we're really teaching along the way.
Okay, and I will say, this is super ghetto, so I'm so sorry, but obviously I can't record. Obviously I couldn't show it. I couldn't do anything. So this is like from my phone. I'm so sorry, everyone. But we got it. That's the important thing.
Apple TV.
That I could never go back to that 13-year-old body or self. And so that was kind of the start of this growth. I want people to see a person, a real human being, you know, that doesn't have this stick-thin figure and white skin. If you really think about it, it's like the most ridiculous thing ever to say. This one thing is what beauty is when no two people are the same. So why do we try so hard to morph into someone else?
So Sandy, I don't know if you want to, I've been talking for a while, so do you want to go off that one?
That's okay. I was just going to say that, like, for me, like, I feel like we all have those statistics of kids not being in a good space today mentally. And I keep trying to think of, like, why is it different today? Like, we've all grown up and everyone blames it on this or that or technology. And it was just like, because I'm so solution driven, I'm always like, what can we do? I don't understand why it's so different now. And so in reading this book, like, it kind of explains it that everyone is searching for happiness. And they're all saying, like, oh, if I do this, then I'll be happy. And it's this, like, promise of a rainbow at the end. Like, if I just keep doing this, I'll be happy. And as we know, like Brady talked about, like the, stunt driver and those people who, like, once they achieved it, then what? Because it's either, I always figure this with goals, it's either you achieve it and you're done, depressing, like how how I feel after vacation. I'm like, oh, well, it's done. Depressing. You know, statistics show, by the way, if you even plan a vacation and never go, you're still happier because like the joy wasn't planning it. And so I think what this book does a really good job of saying is like, it's not about achieving happiness. It's living life through this journey of your values. And if you just keep doing things that are close to your values, that makes you more a joyful person. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's more of a solution. So when Misty says it, she talks about in the beginning how what made her so special in the beginning, because she loved dance until everyone told her she shouldn't be doing it. Until they told her your build's not right, your color's not right. She loved it before then. And then once they didn't, she's like, oh, that spark in me just went away. And then she's like, and it's funny because I realized that's what made me happy. And so once she's like, oh, I'm going to do it. And then like once she continued to dance, then she's like, oh, it's now like a beautiful thing. And I love it. And I'm living this life of more joy, even though people told me this is not what I should be doing. So I think in the beginning when Brody did the values things, it's like what you value is important to you. It's not someone else's, it's yours. And so I think students today keep comparing themselves and keep listening to other people as to what they should value and listening to parents and listening to other students and listening to this. And they're searching for this happiness, which is basically unattainable. So I feel like if we're going to like gracefully teach them through these fun activities that like, if you go towards a more a value-driven life, that journey is much more joyful. And I'm hoping eventually leads to less depressed kids along the way. And I think they're just searching for something that's actually not there. And I think our job during this LDD curriculum is to teach them that's because you're searching for something that's not there. Stop searching for that. Here's the path. And it's a lovely path, and it's just going to be something that you can thrive in and blossom in. And I love the Misty Copeland one so much also because I love dancing, but I love it because afterwards she eventually even goes into, oh, and now I'm going to be, she's like, now I'm a role model too for other people who like people write letters into her. So I think for me, like that's kind of the point is like we have a lot of activities that drive that point home. And I think experiential learning is like why we did the activity in the beginning and didn't tell you what we were doing because it was just fun. We were like, oh, look, it's just fun. I want to be wood. I want to be metal. I want to be a ladder. I want to be a tree, you know, and you don't know that you're learning until the reflection part, which is the John Dewey, until you reflect. And then when Brody started talking about it, you're like, oh, see, that's tricky. Like now he taught me that, you know? And so that's kind of how we do leadership development days is teaching through experiential learning, which is for me the best way to learn. And I hope the aspect of that they don't really necessarily be like, oh, I'm listening to someone wrote, or I'm listening to like the didactic, like all that stuff that we teach, you know, normally. And even more so now because Zoom almost forces you to do that more, which is why kids can do things like put their picture up and walk away from the computer as a joke, because normally they're just listening to you. So our goal is to not have them listen, to unmute and always be super active. Like in the beginning one that Brody did, you would have been in a group of 10 and you couldn't not participate. Because you'd be like, look, here's my piece of it. Like everyone has to kind of along the way. So Brody, sorry, did you want to like keep going or should I ask Michaela or?
No, why don't we, because I don't want to keep, we only have about 10 minutes, so I don't want to keep everyone. I will say what we're doing is kind of what Sandy said. We did create, one of them, I remember I was sitting with Sandy and I was like, this needs to be fun. And so one of them, we like have students that like, playing a counting game, they're like, okay, now hold up your numbers, and they have to work as a team in order to create they have to get to 22. It's kind of like, but with fingers, and we're like, we had to be so creative with things. We're like, okay, we can't give them supplies, so what are we doing? Like, they have fingers. Okay, great. Now let's do this. And so we really, really actively want students to participate, and that's why we're like, it's off mute. That's why we have all of you right now off mute to make it a conversation. And that's why we're splitting in breakout rooms. We're doing activities where they're also learning something, where they're also, because what we learned from our Castle students is kids just want to talk to each other. They just want an opportunity to be like, oh my gosh, look, I have a group and I have people that are going through the same thing I'm going through, and they're talking. And so we wanted to create so many opportunities during like a 3-hour time period where students could talk to each other and feel like, I feel connected with this group. And because that's what we did during LDDs, was create opportunities, not just to have fun, to play games, but also for students to talk. And so we wanted to definitely create that again. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Michaela.
Sorry. Yeah, so our other amazing leadership coach is Michaela, and I wanted Michaela to come on because she was actually a teacher in a school who called us and said, like, I want to do a leadership development day. So I wanted her to share her story a little bit, and then I'll tell you the structure of leadership development days a little more.
So, hi, I'm Michaela. I taught middle school leadership, and as some of you probably know, as a new advisor, leadership is sometimes just handed to you, like, here you go, you're going to teach leadership, welcome to our school, like, figure it out. And we did birthday grams. We had 30 eighth grade students, and our one job for the year was to give everyone a dum-dum birthday gram on their birthday. And I was like, wow, I just feel like there's so much more we could be doing, but I don't know what it is. And I just remember like literally having a moment, like looking out on campus in the morning on duty, just watching the kids. And I'm like I was almost to tears. I'm like, they need so much that we're not giving them. Like, yes, they need their academics. Yes, they need support and all of that, but they need to connect. And there are all these different groups and all these different cliques. And they just were all, you know, on their own, kind of feeling like they were alone. And I saw the invisible students, like the ones that would just be sitting by themselves, pretending like they had somewhere to go, but they really didn't. And so I called Sandy. I called the number on a brochure, but it was Sandy's voice. And I was waiting for the operator. I'm like, press 1 to book a leadership development day. But Sandy and I chatted on the phone for about 30 minutes, almost an hour. I feel like I was crying to her, and she's like, we got this. Like, we're going to figure this out. And Brody came into that gym, and I invited my leadership kids. I invited band, yearbook, Avid, Link Crew, Renaissance, anyone I could. And then I even asked teachers, like, are there any students that just need a little boost? Like, because I really didn't want it to be the leadership club. I was very sensitive to that. Like, I just wanted school spirit. I wanted unity. I wanted community. And that's exactly what it did for my school. We had our first one with Brody, and then we just made it an annual tradition. And the kids looked forward to it every year. And we have facilitators, so high school students facilitate these small groups, and they have individualized trainings. And it was fun to see them come back and say, like, I want to facilitate again, even though they had moved on and they had other things to do in their life. They would come back from college or from wherever. They're like, no, I love it. I want to be a part of it again. So then I, became a coach, and I got to see it wasn't just a one-time thing. It wasn't just my school. Like, I felt like, oh, this is so wonderful what happened in my little bubble. But I started to realize it's not just a single event. It is the curriculum. It is like Brady was talking about, that experience of connecting is powerful. And so when you give them that time, human being to human being, no longer with the different clubs or the different cliques, it's just magical what happens. And I was blown away walking around from school to school all over California. It didn't matter what group, didn't matter what background, didn't matter if they were in leadership or not. They left with just smiles and sometimes tears throughout the day. But like Brady said, like the sadness comes out, and then there's this levity after where it's like, oh, I'm not alone, like me too, and so it's just amazing to see how it really spreads across campus. So we just wanted to open it up to questions and answers and give more details. So I'll pass it back to Sandy.
Michaela. Yeah, I think I was not an ASB leadership kid at all and wasn't interested in it at all. So irony of ironies that this is my job now. Even when they asked me to be an ASB advisor, I was like, I've never been that kid before. And I think that's why I had a different perspective, which was like interesting. As I watched it, I was like, the leadership kids get opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. Like, it's like, oh, this conference is for leadership kids. This conference is for leadership. We take this small group of people on our campus and give them every opportunity. And I'm like, where are all the other people? Because leadership skills, I think it's funny they're called leadership skills, are really skills that everyone should learn. So I think when I was first developing them, like, it was really important to me to make it not be anything about activities or rallies or homecoming or like none of that. It was really just skills on how to learn to have empathy for people, how to learn how to deal with your stress, how to overcome your own fears, like things that everyone needs. So didn't want it to sound like a commercial, but that's kind of like what they are. And so I know like Brittany and some other people are here who have hosted them before, so I don't want to bore everyone with how they are in the structure of them. But typically, it's funny, I was talking to Michaela earlier, and she's like, well, I would like to do it because it's literally like having a guest speaker at your school now, where like instead of you having to teach all day, you can like gather kids and have this, program thing. So to give you the structure, we need about 4 hours. And originally I had set like 10 to 1, or I was trying to make it like a certain time. And then I was just like, everyone's school is so different at this point. Like, whatever you need. But it takes about 4 hours, honestly, to get there because we keep diving deeper and it goes to solutions. And so I don't want to I always disliked when a speaker showed up and everyone was very inspired and then they left very inspired for about 24 hours. But there was really no tools for themselves to continue that journey. So we do a lot of that. So we need at least like 4 hours or so to come into the school and do it. Originally, when I was a high school teacher, I didn't call them leadership development days, but we invited up the middle school and my high school students were their facilitators for the day. So that's kind of how they first came about, was high school students facilitated them for middle school students. And then middle school advisors called and said, we want our students to be the, the facilitators for our elementary kids. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's Mary Poppins. Like, that's adorable. And then people said, oh, I want them for our leagues. AVID became a big one. Oh, we want them for AVID kids. Oh, we want them for our leagues. Leagues don't get along in our district, so let's have them for leagues. So all that to say, if you're interested in having leadership development days, that's kind of what it looks like. The structure is that we need 4 hours, that we will need facilitators. So if you're hosting, you're probably providing 1 per 8, 1 per 10, depending on the numbers of facilitators that we have. We need about 100 to 300 or so to make the magic happen, because a lot of it is about courage. And if it's just this small group of 20 kids that all know each other, that's not true experiential learning because they have to feel it. Other questions that you have, or just in general, we'd be happy to actually answer questions in general about education or that. But if you have questions about leadership development days, oh, actually I will type in my email if you want to contact me about it as well.
Diane, you had a question though?
Well, what's the story about this year for leadership development days? I had scheduled one for September, and like I said, I don't think that's. Are we doing them virtually? Are we pushing them off? What's this?
No, we're definitely. Where are you from, Diane?
Placerville, Northern California.
Yeah, and just making sure it was California. So you're obviously doing school virtual, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, just to make sure, because literally I'm from the Midwest originally, so my social media is filled with like dropping kids off at their first day of school, and they're like going to school, and I'm like, oh wait, but no. So for those schools who are virtual, we're definitely doing these virtual, which is kind of what we were referring to earlier, that we did the activities where the difference was, to be really challenging, was coming up with things that would still engage them on Zoom. So not with supplies, but still that same philosophy of they can't show up and not participate. Like, that's not experiential learning. So every activity still is something where they show up and they have to participate. So we're still doing them, just unmuted at a school, kind of that way. So
still need facilitators, and do you still need the up to 300 kind of kids?
Yeah, because it's Zoom, it's like, it's going to be like how we're doing breakout rooms right now. So for those of you who have done a leadership development day before, you'll see what it looks like. Is like, we'll start in the big room, kind of like we just did, and then we'll go into these breakout rooms with 8 to 10. So yes, we still need facilitators to be in that room of 8 to 10. And if you're a host, those are your students. So if you have these amazing students and you, like, actually, I think it's great training for people to be facilitators. That's actually the best training, is like they get, but they'll be trained like an hour or so prior, and then they will come into these breakout rooms. So to you, Diana, it will look the same as you've seen, in that they're still facilitators, they're still in breakout groups, they're still doing experiential learning activities, kind of thing.
Great. That's beautiful. Awesome.
Yeah, we're excited. It's like, it was challenging, but especially the no supplies. It's funny because we're usually like traveling around like with, golf balls and pool noodles and things like that, because it's all very experiential. And now we're like, okay, well, do you have a Sharpie? Because that would be great. Brittany, any advice as a former host?
Do it. That's probably my biggest advice. I'm sitting here like, okay, how much into the year do I want to set one up? So, and the other thing is are the times flexible now that it's Zoom, or do you still want it like the 9 to 1 or 9, whatever it was?
I mean, it's so funny because I love structure also, even though I study experiential learning, and I'm like, it's really nice because I get in the flow and the hours. But definitely open. Like when I first did like the timing, I was, I remember, is Andrew still here? Like when we were doing the Castle conference and I was like, so it's 7:30, they will be doing this. And the Castle board's like, no one's getting up at 7:30. And I was like, they should be. They're student leaders. It starts at 7:30. And then 24 hours later, after they all emailed me 100 times, I was like, okay, it's starting at 9. Like, you know. So all that to say that kind of flexible with your school. It's interesting because I used the Castle board as an example, and I had them tell me their hours, and they were all different.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh my, like vastly different though. Like some were 9 to 12, some were 12 to 3. I was like, oh my goodness. So that's why I've converted my narrative in my head to say like 4 hours. And it's kind of best if that 4-hour time period is not like during lunch or like during, you know, it's like if you could have like, you know, 9 to 12 or 1 to 4 or something where we don't have to break it up with some sort of like they really need to break to go eat. Like obviously they can go eat, but it's not going to be like a sit here and snap while we're doing the leadership development day. It's more like we're all doing this together. So everyone go take a break, go grab your peanut butter and jelly sandwich,
and then
come on back.
And then Sandy, correct me if I'm wrong, but I just want to check. And then one of those hours, it's the training, correct? So it's like yeah. So one of those hours is the training. We still do a training because what we want to do is like every trainer is going to be a co-host. We got to take them through because the hardest part about this is what we're realizing is normally it's like, okay, you're in group sessions, but the leadership coach, me, Michaela, are standing over and we can like answer questions. We're like, oh my God, we're not going to have this. So we have to make sure that every trainer is really able to run each activity and then come back in the main session and everything like that. So we do have a training that's going to be one, training them on how to use technology, training them how to use Zoom so they can feel confident in that. And two, making sure like, okay, they know how to use the activity and then switching between the sessions. So,
yeah.
So
yeah, and so for people who put them on before, they're also, so this year they're going to be $15 a person since we don't have to feed them and coaches won't be traveling and all that. So it's a little nicer too of like being able to have something super affordable for people. And I'm always amazed at the people that do it with their, Brittany, I don't think this is how you do it, with their whole school. Like I'm always amazed at like people just gather like 150 kids from their school. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Because usually what happens is one school hosts it and then we blast it out and other schools can come. Because again, we need other people there so that you feel that nervousness and when you're doing the activities. Like we don't want them to know the people in their group prior to coming there. That's like not, a big part of it is courage and overcoming fears. So we invite a lot of other people. But some people are like, you know, I just really want my entire school, these 300 people to come. And I'm like, first of all, amazing campus. Like I would love for all 300 people on my campus to be like, you know, trained too. That's super cool. So however you want to do them or, you know, with times, with places, with numbers, with people. Kristen from Area H, I never thought about it. And I was like, oh my gosh, Area H people could come because you're not traveling there, you know, so that'd be super cool too. Meg, congratulations on being ASB advisor. So we roped her into coming just today. She's like, I'm ASB. We're like, we'll see you tonight at the thing.
Yeah, after having done it for 2 years at a middle school, 32 years at a high school, and then for those of you out there, I had a principal that she and I had differences about things, which by the way, wasn't on ASB, but it was the direction our school was going in academies, and she knew I wasn't for it. So I was out. My person who followed me only lasted 2 years and somehow spent tens of thousands of dollars I had saved up. And all kinds of stuff I had in storage and organized disappeared. And then the guy who took it for 3 years, Andy, really nice, but for whatever personal reasons, I don't know, he's not there this year. So I got a call at the end of the week, last week, from my principal saying, will you do this again?
You know, it's funny because I love studying and doing research. And so when I moved to California, I was like, hey, ASB advisors, like, how does this work? What are they doing? And the statistic was that ASB advisor in California lasts for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
First of all, I was a crack up. I was like, that rough half year was like, peace out after half a year. But also to say, I feel like that is the thing. Like, if you can get over that, you know, that 2.5, and then you get into it, for me, like, I feel like I will really wasn't that good of an advisor until like I'd been doing it for about 4 years. I started to feel like, okay, you know, I'm sure all those first year kids are in therapy somewhere and I don't know what happened to them, but I feel like the latter kids were definitely better off along the way of learning that. So I think it's things like this too. Like that's what I did for my students too. I took them to trainings. I got them out. I did like I needed help, I realized. And it's funny because I always felt like I was a good leadership teacher. And I was like, but when you bring them somewhere else and someone else teaches, it's interesting how receptive they are to just even a different person saying kind of like in teaching the same philosophy. So I think there's something to be said about bringing in training and taking them places and doing everything you can with them. You know? So I know it's 8:07 and I don't, people feel like super rude just leaving without us saying goodbye. So I'm happy to stay on if you have other questions, but I also don't want to keep everyone. Again, it's going to be leadership unmuted. And I'm going to use leadership in the very broad term, which means any student is a leader, can be a leader. It doesn't have to just be your student leaders. I feel very much like a teacher in these Blu-ray glasses that I don't know if they're helping the headache issue of seeing computers, but so again, if you have questions, I will stay on. Also, feel free to email and ask about it. I will send out, if you go on our website, you can also see things or just email me. I'm going to create like an FAQ book for everyone together, and we'll put together the books and the curriculum and whatnot. But also feel free to use the activity we did today if you want to do it with your students, which is kind of like relating back to values. So.
Awesome.
Andrew, do you have any lasting words to a group of teachers from the student perspective as they leave?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you all for even just being here and helping us as like student leaders. I think it's right now we're all going through it, and I feel like we all have different challenges. And I feel like as a teacher and as an educator right now, oh my goodness, I don't know how you guys are doing it. Just seeing my teachers kind of get into it. This week I started school, so it's kind of crazy to see how it's all kind of forming, and I'm happy that us as an organization are providing these opportunities for you to really get into the hang of things. But anyways, again, just a huge thank you from a student perspective.
I asked Andrew how his teachers were doing. He said, oh my gosh, the technology. He's like, it's interesting to see them so frustrated. Like usually you don't see your teachers in those positions of like trying and doing all that. So he's like, usually it's us students that are always like super frustrated and don't get something. And he's like, oh my gosh, watching my teachers struggle is really a rough gig too, to watch them go through that. So much empathy. Okay, well, email if you have questions. Otherwise, we will see you later. Thanks for coming.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, Andrew, if you want to stay on for a second, I'll tell you something too. So Brittany, are you thinking of when hosting?
Oh, definitely. I just have to figure out when, and like I need a little time, to get like in. I got to make like a Google form to send out to like my school to like see who could come and get recommendations. Yep. And then I do want to keep inviting, like Meg's school is literally, Claremont's right on the other side of Claremont. So hopefully I can get her to come or send some kids and network a little, and we'll get some people. So thank you guys. I'm excited.
Thanks, Brittany.
Really excited to hear how we were doing it now. So awesome.
Yeah.
So thank you. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Have a good night, guys.
You too.
Hey, Andrew, I just wanted to tell you that this is one of my other things from one of the Zooms today. It's just fun for us, is that like there again, this, for lack of a better word, the NIS CED conference that we're putting on, which I know now is only 7 states. PS, like I don't know what's happening, but we're one of the 7 states putting this on. And so they wanted us to do like a welcome to the conference. And then like every executive director is going to be like, hey, we're from California. Like, so excited to have you at the conference, or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then we were like, oh, and then they were like, oh, Sandy has to be at the beach when she says hi from California. I'm like, first of all, I haven't been to the beach in years, but let me be by there. So we're gonna all kind of like send in a little snippet or whatever.
Yeah.
Ooh. Did I just freeze?
Mm-mm.
Did I just freeze back? All this to say that you are gonna also send in a snippet. Yes.
Okay,
So
cool.
we, and I can give you more info later. I was just excited to tell you because they were like, oh my gosh, let's have our like, and I like all are set up differently, as you know.
Yeah.
And so I just said president because I don't know who they have. And so they kind of decided representative, whatever that means, you know.
Okay.
But I was like, oh no, I'll have the council president like do a little thing. So it's going to be really short, but it's just going to be more like, hey, we're from California and welcome, you know. So it's super.
Hey, everybody. I couldn't tell if things were still going on or if it was just like a random list of names that wasn't for real.
Right.
So-
You could have popped into our room, but yeah, we were still going, but that's okay. I gave him my email. We're all good, and it went well, right? Ashley and Vicky.
It was awesome. I appreciate it.
I just want to go back into the rooms. I can put you back in the rooms, but I figure there's a lot of people
No.
at school tomorrow, and
I gotta eat dinner, and my daughter's still here with her husband, and I missed the whole chit chat about my grandbaby.
I had to do yearbook, Jill. I have to do yearbook.
Oh, I understand.
I want to die, Monique.
I'm gonna leave.
But
Keep
Paul
up.
made me feel better. I can do this.
You can. You got
After
it.
19 years or whatever of activity directors, I know we are the ones that
check
can
in
put
with you
it in
later
the
on.
book. I get that. It's just putting the book.
Oh yeah. That's it's actually the one thing that I keep telling people, that I'm so glad that I was an activities director, because the stress of, is this going to work or how is it going to work? I don't even have that stress because we're so used to just figuring it out and making it happen.
Right,
So that's not my stress. My stress is when you don't give me the information in enough time. Like that's the stressful part, but putting it together, like we were built for this.
You mean like we start school tomorrow and we have no principal?
Oh,
Like
Glenna,
goodness.
you always have stories like this. Dang,
Girl,
girl.
I mean, it's my hell, I tell you. It is my hell.
Okay, hey, real quick. So we were Sharon and Gretchen. I think Gretchen, are you still there? Because Gretchen, it looked like you had more questions in the chat, and we got shut down, Gretchen. So if you want, so what I'm going to do is Sharon and Gretchen. Here is I just dropped it in the chat. Here's my Zoom code, so we can go ahead and we can take this. We can take this elsewhere.
Wow.
Whoa.
Like
you
that.
want
I have a party.
Thank you, Ron.
breakout room for you guys.
Okay, well, reopen our breakout room then. That way I don't have to. People
Yeah,
are
that'd be
making it
easier.
weird.
And put all the games.
Okay.
Weird is okay. Why Weird am is I- okay. Okay. I don't need a breakout room, guys.
All right.
Love you
Hey.
guys. Thanks so much.
We're